In 1987, a quiet neighborhood on the outskirts of town was shaken by a string of brutal disappearances. The Stillwater Road Killer, as he would later be called, haunted the small community for months. Residents were gripped with fear, dreading the fate of those who mysteriously vanished. Emma and Luke were a young couple who had recently moved into a little fixer-upper on Stillwater Road, blissfully unaware of the house's dark past. The property had been on the market for years and they'd gotten it for a bargain. They thought nothing of it until the whispers started. The first night, as they lay in bed, Emma heard a faint scratching sound coming from somewhere in the walls. She assumed it was an old house settling or maybe a mouse, but as the nights wore on, the sounds grew louder, more frantic. Soon, they both began hearing whispers, soft and pleading, as if coming from beneath the floorboards.
It's probably just old pipes or drafts.
Luke, ever the rational one, tried to explain it away, though his voice carried a hint of doubt. But the whispers grew insistent, rising to a faint, desperate moan. Then, one night, they heard a woman's voice, raw and terrified, screaming from below them.
Did you hear that?
Emma sprang out of bed, her heart pounding, convinced someone was in the house.
Yes, I did.
Luke nodded, his face pale. They checked the entire house, following the sounds down to the cellar.
The whispers seemed to grow louder, echoing around us, filling the room with an unshakable chill.
As they descended, the cellar door creaked open with a disturbing reluctance, as though it hadn't been opened in years.
A thick, suffocating smell rose from below, damp and sour.
Luke found an old toolbox, the latch rusted shut, sitting in the corner.
I hesitated, but he urged me forward.
"What's in here?" he whispered, prying it open.
Inside was a small folded piece of paper with smudged ink and dark stains.
Trembling, we opened it, revealing a hastily scrawled note.
"He's here. He's watching. Do not let him in."
The words were smeared as if written in a hurry, and below them was a dark, dried patch they couldn't identify.
I dropped it, repulsed, and looked around, horrified.
It was then they noticed faint scratches etched into the cellar wall, as though someone had clawed desperately to escape. That night, Emma searched online, frantically seeking answers.
I discovered that our house had once been home to the Stillwater Road Killer, a man who had lured young women to his home before trapping them in his basement, keeping them locked away for days until they met their end.
But he had never been caught.
After his final victim, he vanished, leaving only whispers of what he'd done. Whispers that never stopped.
From that night on, the whispers grew relentless. They no longer spoke in single words, but full sentences, begging Emma and Luke to find them, to save them.
Find us! Save us!
Sleep became impossible as they were plagued by desperate voices calling their names, crying for release, and at times shrieking in agony.
Emma, Luke, help us, release us!
Luke, we can't stay here anymore. We have to leave.
"I know, Emma. We need to get out now."
Desperate to escape, they prepared to move. But the night before they left, Luke felt something tugging at his leg, pulling him toward the cellar door.
"Emma, something's pulling me."
In a daze, he stumbled down, guided by an unseen force, and Emma watched, horrified, as he walked straight to the wall with the faint scratches and began clawing at it, as though in a trance.
Luke, stop! What are you doing?
It was then she noticed his face, blank and expressionless, like he was under someone else's control.
Luke, snap out of it!
Emma screamed, rushing to pull him away, but the air grew thick, the voices louder, as if hundreds of hands were dragging him deeper.
Come, join us, find us.
Finally, she managed to pull him back, but he collapsed, shaken and covered in scratches.
Luke, are you okay? Oh my God, you're covered in scratches!
The next morning, they left the house. abandoning everything they owned. To this day, the house on Stillwater Road sits vacant, its windows dark, its cellar untouched. People say that on quiet nights, you can hear whispers drifting from its walls, calling out for the lives stolen within. And sometimes, if you listen closely, you can hear footsteps echoing through the empty halls, the footsteps of the Stillwater Road Killer, forever bound to the horror he created, his dark secrets still waiting to be uncovered.